Ladies and gentlemen, another Facebook Live after, a 3-week hiatus. I've been on tour, and one of the states I've been in is Mr. Roy's state as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are very fortunate from the lovely state of Arizona, the Scottsdale office, Mr. Roy Meshel from Prosperity Mortgage.
Thank you.
Like that? See, Roy, I just want you to know right up front, you're swell.
Thank you. I feel swell.
And I feel swell as well. All right, let's rock and roll. Okay, so let's get into it, Roy. Tell me a little about yourself, how long you've been doing this, all that good stuff, please.
Been doing it forever, since the early 90s. At one point, I owned one of the top 10 mortgage companies in Arizona. And then in 2009, me and two silent partners sold it to W.J. Bradley, who was buying up mortgage companies at the time. And I ran W.J. Bradley, and then after that got recruited to Bay Equity, and I ran Bay Equity for Arizona. And then I've been in, at one point I was in the top 50 originators 7 years in a row, so that was pretty cool.
Nice.
And probably the coolest part of my career is somehow someone at the Wall Street Journal got my name, and I was interviewed a few times in the Wall Street Journal, but the first time I got interviewed, I was having breakfast with my uncle, who's a huge investor, he passed away, a huge Wall Street type guy. And we're reading, and he reads the Wall Street Journal, and we're at breakfast together in New York. I'm on vacation. And I'm like, why don't you read that article? And he says, holy shit, there's another mortgage guy named Roy Meshel. And I was like, yeah, don't you think that's too big of a coincidence?
Yeah.
And
right.
So it's a huge moment of pride for me to show my uncle.
He finally realized it's actually you.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So
awesome.
That's me.
So, so it's safe to say you have a little experience in the mortgage business.
Safe to say that.
Okay, so here's a point blank question that wasn't on my question list. So, Roy, you probably could have gone anywhere. Why did you pick Prosperity?
So one of the things I liked about Prosperity was the Warren Buffett thing. To be honest, that I think the security of a Warren Buffett company is pretty cool. And I knew a couple of the Berkshire agents, and they were calling me, said, why don't you do this? And, I wanted to work with them more closely. So that was probably the main reason.
All right. Yeah, I like Uncle Warren too. As I tell everybody, I call him Uncle Warren. I've never met the man, but I feel like I know him because I've read everything about him. And now his buddy, Charlie Munger, who's actually quite a character. If you read anything about Charlie, he's great. Yeah, smart guys and very different yet the same. They talk through the weekends. They never make decisions without talking to each other. It's pretty crazy how tight those two are. But I really it's one of the reasons I've been here for almost 9 years.
Not the dumbest guys in any room.
Right. All right. So let's get right into it because the topic of today is this what do they call that arm of the Fed? Oh, yeah, the Fed. The Fed is not your friend right now, right? The Fed just keeps going crazy. Yeah. And it appears
they're going to raise again. So yeah,
they're gonna curb inflation at any cost, apparently.
Right, exactly.
But at least they'll get the inflation numbers down. Well, even though they associate that with the rates, but they look at that as their only tool. But they forget that 20% of the money currently in circulation has been put in circulation in the last 2 years. That kind of affects inflation too. So I think if they just let it do its thing, it's going to work itself out, continuing to raise the rate. At this point, they've already had an historical year, 0.5, 0.75, 0.75, then 1. I mean, there's never been a year like that before.
So, I've seen, obviously, and I kind of say it's useless when people tell you this, like, oh, when I bought my first house, it was 18%.
Yeah.
Like, no one really cares. My stepfather used to tell me that a movie was 25 cents. It's like, yeah, well, that doesn't help me tonight because a movie was $15. So I've seen, obviously, higher rates, but I've never seen rates go so quickly. Like, right. I call it the jacuzzi effect. Like, rates, no matter what type of loan you had, I told you your rate was in the 2s. And then, a lot of people say, is that the best you can do? And I'm like, yeah. But then the 3s lasted so briefly. You never got the jacuzzi was always hot. You never got used to the 3s. And then all of a sudden it was the 4s and the 5s and the 6s, and now we're, 6s to 7s, that you don't get the jacuzzi effect that you don't get used to the water. Right. So you got to hear the 6s or the 7s for a while before that becomes the norm. But, I think in a month, if you tell people 7%, that would be an amazing rate. the way it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what I found that a lot of the agents, because, I deal with the agents in 3 different states and 4 different markets, all Berkshire Hathaway, obviously. And the thing I'm hearing is the buyers that are the most cooperative are the ones that locked with you guys, 60, 90 days ago. And they're like, So I tell people, get them approved, do the underwriting, lock them. And then the longer you have them, right, because I know you guys lock for 90 days? Is that what you guys lock for now?
Yeah, we'll do 90 days and then we'll do extensions if we need to. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
The extensions are cheap compared to where rates have been 90 days ago. So people are happy to extend. So, yeah, I think that our lock and shop is the most underutilized best program out there. Like it doesn't cost the buyers anything. It gives them protection. And the reality is, if rates go down one way or another, they're going to get a lower rate. So there's no risk to them. And it's amazing more people don't do that, to me.
Right. Because as the prosperity saying goes, I give you guys credit for it anyway. Marry the home, date the rate. And that's so popular right now. That's so important right now because because as a buyer, there's advantages right now, right? I mean, you have your choice. You can negotiate with sellers. You can get them to buy a seller funded buy down. There's all kinds of things you can do right now. And you can pick a house where a year ago you were one of 14 offers, didn't get it. Now you can pick a house, which is, it's always something. Remember Rosanna Dana? Remember? It's always something. It's never going to be 100% perfect. When the rates were 2.9 or 3.25, you couldn't buy a house because you had so much competition with cash. Now the rates are a little higher, but you can pick. It's always going to be something. There's no perfection in an imperfect world, right?
No, for sure. And one of the biggest buyer's agents in Metro Phoenix put out a thing of probably 6-7 weeks ago that thank God rates are gone up because now you have a chance at this house. And it's true that rates have gone up and, that part sucks. But the flip side of that coin is a lot of people now, you look at, a year ago, if you looked at a house Friday afternoon and you kind of liked it, your agent would say, we have to make an offer right now.
Yeah, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, we have to make the offer right now and we have to waive our appraisal and waive our inspection and beg for them to take our money. And by the way, we're going to offer them more than they think the house is worth. And,
and we still might not get it.
Right. Now on a Friday afternoon, if you look at a house you like, they're like, well, we should look at a few more houses over the weekend because let's find you the perfect house. And it's weird the things you relate that to, but I have a shirt guy at Nordstrom's and every so often he sends me pictures of fabric for new shirts. Right. And it takes me literally days to decide. In fact, the end decision this time, I asked our mutual friend, Nicole Demas, I'm like, which two ones should I get? So I would be like a bad candidate back a year ago to buy a house because I'd be like, I can't make a decision in 60 minutes on a house. Are you insane?
Right.
And, my agent would say, well, if you don't make a decision now, someone else is. So now I think there are advantages to buyers that you can ask for concessions. You can ask for things to be fixed, which a year ago, if something was broken, they're like, screw you, there's 21 people behind you. So I think it is good for, buyers right now.
Right. And you can also, by the way, before you go any further, Roy, I must say that those are very impressive glasses you have on, I must say.
Oh, hey.
These are my reading glasses. These are the ones for the office because no one's going to steal them, right? No, I'm kidding. All right. So all right. I agree with you. Not only, and I love Nicole too. Talk about someone who is climbing the ladders really quick as far as doing transactions. She's come from a brand new agent.
She owns the ladder.
Yeah, she does. She now owns the ladder and every rung on it and rents them out individually. All right. So, and not only can you get them to do repairs and you can make an offer and you can probably get it below asking, you can ask the seller to contribute to buying the rate down.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're seeing that. I have one deal going right now where the seller's giving 6% towards buying down the rate and closing costs, which, a year ago, that would have been they would drug test you if you asked that a year ago.
They would drug test you, then drug test the buyers. I agree with you. And, the best story I have in North Scottsdale is we had somebody that paid $250,000 over asking for a 1.7 million. So they paid 2.2 for it, 2.25. It was 1.75. No. Yeah, they paid 2 for it and they were asking 1.75. That's what it was. And they closed in 30 days cash. $250,000 over asking. Now, I mean, a couple things that you've said. I mean, I've been doing this for 38 years. I got my license in the mid 80s. And I have never seen, like, go back 6 months and then go back the 18 months before that. That was the best 18 months in the history of real estate, including 2004, 5, and 6. If you look at the numbers, there was actually more inventory on the market there then than there is now. There's really no other comparison than that. I mean, because of what was going on and what caused that market to plummet. This market doesn't have that situation. What you have now is people waiting on the sidelines to see if something happens with rates, because our shortage of inventory hasn't gone away, even though the inventory has climbed slightly. That's not going to go away. It can't. Not for years will that go away. And there's no scenario. I always tell people, well, if I bought a year ago, I could have got a 3.5% interest rate. Right, but are you going to penalize yourself by renting more? Right. Rent's 100% interest, okay? And you're not paying any of your mortgage down. You're paying somebody else's down. So, yeah, it would have been better a year ago, but since you're not Superman, you can't fly against the Earth's rotation and turn back time, now is the second best time for you to buy, and then you can always refinance later. So there's still no scenario where renting is better, even though they've been spoiled the last couple of years, right? So it's still get out there.
Say something similar to me, and unfortunately, I'm a wise ass, and it gets me in trouble. And I quoted a rate, and the buyer said, "I wish I had a time machine to go back 6 months to get a 4 something rate." I'm like, well, if you had a time machine, why wouldn't you go back to when rates were 2? Like, why would you stop at 4? Like,
yeah, why'd you stop at 4?
Time machine, yeah.
Yeah, so true, yeah. Crazy. I couldn't believe it. And people was telling me about the rates. When I was hearing about the rates back then, I was like, they're free. Really? Back then, the purchase price didn't matter because the rates were so low. Now you got, so it's always going to be 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's still an incredible time. But here's what I think agents need to hear. Even though the rates have gone up and blah, 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 always, get them pre-approved, get them to lock that rate, and get the seller to buy it down as much as you can. And then you're going to sit and just wait, because let's face it, they can't, there's going to come a time where they're going to adjust back. They probably will never go back to the 2s, but maybe the 3s or 4s again, but that may take a while. But at least lock up your house, because prices aren't going to plummet. The inventory situation is not going away. The economy is still relatively strong, or even though we got all kinds of inflation and things going on. So it's still a great time to buy a house.
For sure. And buying's always better than renting.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah. Why penalize yourself?
Yeah, no. And long term, what I have a conversation with a lot of buyers is, like, what do you think's going to happen, next month, 6 months, 3 months? And I'm like, are you buying this house to sell it in January? Like, you have 2 young kids, aren't you buying the house to raise it? And if you're staying there, 10 years till your kids are in college and stuff, you're going to do okay. If you buy it in October to sell it in November, it's probably not the best move. But if you buy it in October to have a home, it is a great move.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we're back to a normal market instead of Disneyland market, right? It was Fantasyland before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. And it's still your best investment. And, even at let's say the rate's at 7 right now, 7.25, whatever. It's still about half of your payment goes to principal reduction. I remember when I started, maybe 25, 30% of your principal went to reduction. The rest went to the interest rate because they were over 10 and 12. And I know nobody likes to hear that. But historically, it's just a fact. Historically, the rates are still great right now. It's a great time to buy. People will adjust to it. So I think the people that adjust quicker, lock their rates now and get something going, are going to be very happy that they did that.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. And if rates do go back down, which I agree, I see rates in the 4s in the next 12 months. If rates go back down to the 4s, we're going to have a feeding frenzy where you're not going to be able to get the house you got, because there will be another feeding frenzy because rates have dipped, and we have particularly Phoenix, so many people are moving here. That the demand is going to be incredible, that you're going to be back to, agents telling you like the house, make the offer.
Right.
Where, it's good to be the homeowner at that time and not the buyer.
Right. 10% over asking. Don't ask for Can you imagine just 9 months ago, 10% over asking. Don't ask for a inspection. Waive the appraisal contingency, and now we're here. So as a buyer, you're right, and the rates are going to change. So it's almost like the eye of the storm. You have a little time in here to get the house you want. So let me ask you, because you've been doing this a long time. If I'm a buyer, is it better for me right now to do a seller-funded 2-1 buy down, or just have the seller buy that rate down as much as you can within your ratios as a fixed?
I'm a big believer that the permanent buy down is better, and here's why I would say that. So the 2-1 buy down, if I compare a permanent buy down to a 2-1 buy down, typically the first year, the 2-1 buy down, it's a lower rate, so a lower payment. But year 2, a lot of times the permanent buy down is the same or lower. And then when you get to year 3, it definitely is. And, we can all go in, and I believe rates will be down in 12 or 18 months. But like we both know, the world's a crazy place right now. And what if they're not? And so if they're not, your permanent buy down is still going to be that lower rate for 30 years.
Right.
And so if it takes 4 years for rates to go down, you're in good shape. Where a 2-1 buy down, you're really counting on it happening within 24 months, which I personally think it will. But also, like, the world's crazy and something crazy could happen with China, Russia, who knows, right?
Right.
And rates go higher instead of lower in the next 24 months. And so the permanent buy down for that reason, I think, is a much better deal.
Right. I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you too. I'm the same way, but but look if you like to go the 2-1 buy down because you have that much confidence, go ahead, because it does start out. Let's say it's 7.25. I mean, it starts out at 5.25, then 6.25, whatever. Okay, but I am the same way. Like if I'm putting over 10% down, like you just said, 6% seller contribution. If I can get 3 or 4% of that to buy my rate down, you can buy that rate down pretty substantially, right?
And yeah, the other good part about, I think, of the permanent buy down that people don't think about is, maybe rates, don't go down, right? So you're stuck with that loan. And let's say you're going to move, but your current house would make a great investment property.
Right.
It's good to have a permanently better rate to figure, well, if we could rent it for X, like we're doing fine. And, I meet a lot of people in that situation that they're like, well, my house would be an amazing investment, so I want to keep it.
Yeah. That's exactly what I did with mine. I did the same thing. I moved into a neighborhood and then I upgraded slightly and I kept my house, rented it out. And I just had that conversation with somebody in your office, in that office, the Scottsdale office, about the same thing. Why rent when you can buy, stay there for a couple of years, okay, rent it out. Now you got an owner-occupied rate. So let's say you get a 7% interest rate as an investment is not a bad rate.
No, it's great. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Right. All right.
I think in Phoenix, rents are only going up because of the demand.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing too, with inflation and everything, people that rent, rents are going up and houses are kind of stabled off for a while. We'll see how long.
Right.
All right, cool. All right, Roy, any wonderful thoughts you want to leave these people with these current market conditions, or anything that's on your mind?
So I would say, don't be shy. For some reason, there's like this, I don't know what you would call a stigma or something, that the concession to ask for is 2%. I would say the worst they can do is counter. Ask for a big concession. We had someone ask for a 6% concession, and they got it. And they were really counting when they made that offer. I'm like, well, if we have to settle at 3, that's fine. And the seller was motivated and said, okay, we'll give you a 6% concession. So I would tell agents who are representing buyers, don't be shy. You might as well swing for the fences, because the worst they could say is no.
And it's not like they have, it's not like they have 4 offers behind you either anymore. So you can swing for the fences. And even if you get even if they got 3 or 4, that's still a tremendous seller contribution.
Yeah, for sure. So that would be my one takeaway from right now, that somehow everyone is fixated on, I'm going to ask for 2%. And I don't know where that number became the number, but why not ask for more? Right.
Well, if they're putting 5% down, they can ask for up to 3, and then over 10, they can ask for 6, up to 6, right?
Yeah, and then if you go 25% down, you could ask for 9.
9, I love it.
Yeah, so yeah,
you can buy that rate down a lot for 9%.
Yeah, but why not go for the fences, right? The worst you should say is no.
You said the key words there, Roy. The seller was motivated. Okay, so when there are motivated sellers out there, as an agent, you just got to say to yourself, hey, let me find them. And there are buyers that are motivated to buy, because no matter how you slice it, okay, buying is better than renting and moving to the area or whatever, okay? So the key as an agent is you just got to talk to more people, so your pipeline is filled with people that are definitely doing something as opposed to, well, I'm going to wait and see what happens. There's nothing wrong with having those people in your database and following up with them as they become more motivated. But the key is spend your time with the motivated people who are doing something now.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a great point. So don't be afraid to swing for the fences in your offer. I like the idea of buying the rate down permanent. That's the way I would do it too. Probably because of our age, we're more, the younger guys are like, nah, I'll roll the dice. Let them roll the dice. It's okay. Either way, it works depending on what they want to do. But I would definitely go for the permanent buy down because the rates are still pretty damn good.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. All right, Roy, anything else you want to tell these wonderful people before we cut it? We're just about at time.
I think we're good.
All right.
Call me if you need anything. Love to help.
Yeah, and Roy
my dog got in the picture now.
How was that?
I said now my dog got in the picture, so that's good.
There you go. What's up? Yeah, and you know what? Here's the thing. If you guys need any help, call Roy. He's at the office, at the Kierland office in Scottsdale. He loves to help you guys. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Roy. Thanks for taking your time out today.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye, everybody.